Not recording. Yeah, we are all set. So please go ahead.
All right. So as I was saying, just as a couple of us were in here, and it looks like just us again. Somebody just dropped out. It's what did you do to take care of yourself, or what have you been doing to take care of yourself? Because now know my unique situation, and it had me be locked down in that 4.5 months. Had some good and some bad effects. I made a decision when I was clear I was going to be stuck in this hotel room at the time I made this decision in February to stay there rather than go back to the USA, to the state of Michigan, which at the time was the worst place in the world to be for the virus. And I said, okay, make a decision. But then I'm like, you know what? Make the most of this time. Don't sit and binge watch old American TV shows off the internet. Make the most of this time. And there is the tradition in India among the great yogis of self-isolating, right? For the sadhus, they go into a cave in the Himalayas or something like that. And so I said, all right, God willing, this will never have a situation in the USA like this again, where we all have to be locked down. But if you're doing it, make the most of this time. So I could say, the one thing I did, I was in Calcutta. I was in the Westin over in Newtown. And right across the street was this grand new institute being built by the Ramakrishna Mission. And Swami Vivekananda's statue, I woke up and looked out on it every morning. And I've become, there's a longer story among that, I've become quite a devotee of Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. But the fact that I was placed right there, I said, all right, use this time to learn as much from them as you can. So I read, 2 5-volume biographies of Ramakrishna. I read about 5 or 6 books written by Vivekananda. I read a book about Sarada Devi, right? And just, all together, I think 10 or 11 books in that realm, as well as a few Agile books and other books as well. So all of a sudden my reading just vaulted, and I made it serious reading. I would be exhausted at the end of the day. And just learned as much as I can, really tried to really cultivated a meditation practice and a Kriya practice that I was doing every morning. And so that time, this is what was part for me, making the most of that time. And actually have almost finished writing a book that I started, Karen. Stay tuned for that in about a month and a half. We'll publish that. I'm going to actually publish it on October 2nd. But the other things that didn't go so well is, look, I was locked down in a hotel room for 4.5 months, and that is not a good way to take care of yourself physically. Right? I couldn't. The gym was shut down. The pool was shut down. I couldn't, how strict the lockdown was, early part. If I'd walked out of the hotel front gate, I would have risked getting arrested in the neighborhood I was. And then even after the lockdown kind of lifted, I started taking walks through the neighborhoods, but then the COVID started coming into the area, and I was advised, no, don't walk out in the neighborhoods. So it was kind of, I couldn't get, and I could tell my body is kind of atrophied. Towards the end of the lockdown, I'm like, your legs have gotten skinnier, but not for the right reason. I lost a lot of endurance during that time that I'm kind of having to build up and build strength back, because I was locked in a freaking hotel room for 4.5 months without really being able to exercise. And that's part of it, what didn't go so well. So I've been talking for a while. I'm kind of interested, what are you all doing to take care of yourself during this time? Anybody want to share?
Yeah, the same problem with me. Like in my society, they're not allowing us to go out And if you'll have to go out, it's only for the essential services during the primary lockdown.
Right.
So, like I took my car and went out and purchased some vegetables and all those things for 1 week. Then primarily I used to go out weekly once for vegetables. So
Uh-huh.
that's how it is. The movement was restricted. So the all good thing which I was doing is like go out in the balcony, enjoy the fresh air, and then like come back, recharge, and you start your work.
Right.
And like I in between, like I took a mandatory break, just to play with my sons. So that's how like I got regenerated. That's what I.
So you've been able to keep working during this time?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, good, good. That's good to hear.
No,
Yeah.
not exercises, because I'm not a physical fit person. Okay,
You know,
not
what's
exercises.
interesting is, like, I'm no athlete either, right? But I know I have to, if I'm 57 years old, I am not a thin guy, right? I have family history, at least on my father's side of the family, of developing heart stuff later in life. I want to take the initiative to at least take a walk every day. And I couldn't even do that. I couldn't take a swim in the pool every day. So this is what's kind of interesting with restricted movement. Yes, it's keeping us safe in the virus, but it's infecting us in other ways. In the USA, now I played a game. I decided, I'm in this 5-star hotel, but I'm not, but there are people all over India, you know, that are actually really struggling now. They've lost their jobs and they don't know how to feed their families. So I'm going to eat very simple. I'm going to eat 2 meals a day, and I had idlis in the morning and dal khichdi at night. And tried to eat very simple. And it was actually, that part of it was not that actually helped my health, but part of this is the way it's impacting us. It's in the USA, people are gaining weight like crazy. Because we don't eat as well in the USA. We have all this manufactured food, and people are stocking up on chips and soda. I see people walking out of grocery stores with cases and cases of soda, right? And that's how they're living. So people are gaining weight in the USA. So yeah. So this is a challenge. I think it's going to impact us physically as much as anything else. Sajid, how have you been taking care of yourself?
So I've been part of this community called the Atlassian community, and we ran a community challenge, and where we did a wellness challenge. So we like divided ourselves across the world. We divided ourselves in teams, and we did a bunch of where we used a Trello board, and we had to like post our daily activities, and there were points. So we gamified it basically.
Great.
And at the end of 2 months, we had like a winner. My team won, so that was fun. I mean, having that, it wasn't much, but just having that, uh, one external factor that okay, there's a team thing going, and we have to win. Just having that in my head kept me going for a while. I lost a bit of weight, but once the challenge ended, I think the motivation did as well, and I gained it all back in the next 2 months. But I've been trying to, spend whatever time I have and learning. So I've picked up a new instrument. If you see, there are a bunch of instruments on me behind my wall.
What did you
I've
pick
picked a
up?
bunch of. Sorry.
What did you pick up? What's the new instrument?
I got a MIDI controller which had a piano in between, so I'm starting to learn piano. So I was a strings guy. I would always play guitar, ukulele, bass. But this time I've started learning keys as well. And I've not been taught by anybody ever. So I was a self-taught musician. And I started picking up piano. I'm looking at YouTube lessons and, learning however I can.
I know Sajid is a very good musician. I have heard him.
Yeah, we met at the Agility Today run last year,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So sorry, Sajid, where do you live? What city?
I'm based out of Gurgaon, Jeff.
You're in Gurugram, yeah.
Yeah. So I and Deepthi used to be the committee leaders for Delhi Gurgaon since last, I think, 2017, I believe.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's actually one of my pain points is that, now I play Sufi music. So I play this instrument called an oud. I had to, because of this weird thing where my journey originated in Bangalore in February, but I couldn't, and so this thing with Calcutta was just supposed to be a short trip, and I was going to go back to Bangalore, and then I got stranded there and had to leave for Calcutta. So I have 2 ouds in Bangalore still. So you could bet I'm coming back to the country at some point to get I got a suitcase and 2 musical instruments stored in one of my friend's mother's house in Bangalore. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. So all are musical, agile people here. Yeah, because I personally is also a classical singer, so I think
You are.
we all are in same wavelength.
There's a lot in common. Great groups of musical. Great. There's an article that was written that compared great groups of improvising musicians to high performing teams, because there's actually a lot of commonality in that behavior. So that's great. So what you sing Hindustani or Carnatic music?
I mean, no, North Indian, not Carnatic music. It's mainly North Indian. So the classical one.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So what about? Oh, you were going to say something? No. So what about developing yourself as an agilist or a coach? What have you been doing in that, and doing anything in that realm while we're all locked down?
Yeah, I did my Cal course with Olaf.
Great.
Cal 1 I did. Thanks to Sri Harsha. You know Sri Harsha, right? Sri Harsha APGI. So Sri Harsha, he introduced me to Olaf, and then I did my Cal 1 through Olaf. And after that, like I've been attending some webinars related to AWS, Azure space. Like I've been attending some webinars in that sense. Yeah, and there were a lot of internal org-wide, like we had some programs, so I was been attending those programs actually.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I explored a lot about various tools, because this time, working remotely with so many teams, so a lot of exploration required for tools. So that is one thing I did. And also, yes, as Venkat was saying that this time we saw so many webinars are happening in LinkedIn. Every other day we are seeing webinars. So actually it was good, because when we get bored of daily monotonous work, we just jump into one of the webinars that attract us, and we try to learn something new, because anyways, that practice should be there for everyone, that we have to learn. Learning will never stop, right? So those are the 2 things that I try to do.
Yeah, this is where, I taught a couple online classes and then have attended a few things. I did a Scrum at Scale class, and then I did a product owner class as well. But it's been really interesting to me to see, first of all, I'm kind of horrified when I see people just running up the number of certifications they have. It's, all of a sudden they say, I've earned my 7th certification during the lockdown. And I'm just like, yeah, but how are you practicing any of this stuff? You're just running up with the number of initials you have. And then the way a lot of these things are getting offered, which is they're taking the intense 2-day class but just putting it online, which is everything we've learned on how not to do online learning, we're doing. Right, we're doing these 8 or 9-hour a day classes, which are crazy, and they've been proven not to work very well, but we're still doing it that way. One of the books I've really tried to study in the coaching realm was not really in the coaching realm, but in the Agile realm, is the Scrum book. That's just what it's called. It's written by Jeff Stuit and the Scrum Patterns group, which I think is really going to be a seminal work if you want to learn anything about how to apply patterns, and specifically on Scrum patterns. It's the Bible now. It's really an amazing fundamental book. But yeah, it's that's kind of what's been confined to my learning. And the other thing is there was, like I said, where I really tried to cultivate a lot of silence. There's a lot of learning you can do inside there. This is actually, there's great benefit to that. This is kind of why I saw so many people jumping on and taking so many online courses. And I'm like, you're gonna tire out your brain and have to recover. So, anybody else doing anything interesting in the learning space?
I did a bunch of sessions for other groups in other like client organizations that we were working with. We held a bunch of, just random coffee chats. Like once a Friday, we would just have a common Zoom ID just float around in our, peers and that kind of a thing. I've met some great interesting folks through that, which I wouldn't have otherwise when it was just work related. Folks from marketing from other client teams that I probably wouldn't ever have spoken to or learned about their perspective. So that was really great. Being part of the Atlassian community has really helped because there I get to interact with leaders from worldwide, and there also we've started something like where we would just get together and talk about how it has been in terms of learning for us. Sadly, I'm also victim of one certification which I was forced to do. Yeah, so for my organization works in Atlassian, so for a bunch of accounts, we at times have to get accreditation that we'll get this account only when you have this certification. So, and you get to keep your like platinum partnership, so need to have these many certifications. Yeah, so I had to do a certification myself, but it was a technical certification. So while I did it, I did have to, learn the tool properly and how to use it and all that stuff. I think the biggest challenge has been how to deal with, just the minimum amount of movement. So like the last 6 months, I think once since March, I think I moved out of the sector where I live in Gurgaon once. And and I'm a very physically active person otherwise. Like I would go on runs, I would play basketball, I would go swimming, I would play football. And at the end of the day, when you sleep and you look that you move 300 steps in a day, that was seriously something like, what? I moved 300 steps. That means I've gone to the kitchen 10 times and to the washroom. That's it. And just being okay with that fact is something that I'm still working with, because I have like hundreds of plans. I had treks lined up for this year. So I had trek in Ladakh in September, which are obviously cancelled. I had a trek in Kerala in November, which is now cancelled. So all of these, and like we had the Atlassian Summit in March, which was in Vegas, which was cancelled. So 2020 was supposed to be a very interesting, kind of, okay, meet these many people, have fun, do this, do that. On the music side, I had a bunch of gigs which were cancelled. I do a lot of music with the underground community here in Delhi, and they were cancelled. And we did some online gigs and those kind of things, but it's never fun, when you don't get to hear the people that you're playing music for. It sucks. But yeah, I think on a personal level, that has been the biggest challenge, coping with the kind of environment that it has become, to just being okay with the fact, okay, I've moved 400 steps in a day. It's all right. You had work, and just I think that's my biggest challenge. How are you guys? Like, do you guys face it? Like, do you have that intrinsic, oh man, you suck. Why have you only moved this much in a day?
Yeah, like I was saying before, that was the big negative impact of this time. My body actually atrophied, and I've lost physical endurance because I couldn't go out of that hotel room. The gym was closed, the pool was closed. I couldn't walk out the hotel gates, and And it really, that was not a good effect that's going to take a while for me to build back up from. Yeah, I was going to ask you whether you had been playing online with friends, because all the gigs are canceled and all the.
Yeah. We did a bunch of gigs online for a couple of non-profits, just to raise some funds. I work as a teacher in an NGO called Manthan in here in Gurgaon. So and a bunch of there's this organization called Robin Hood Academy. If you heard Robin Hood Army, I'm sorry, which works for feeding the homeless. So we did a bunch of gigs there, collected some money, but it's just not the same. Sitting in this room is everything. Like my movement is from my workstation, so this workstation is also my music desk to my bed, which is just like behind me, and and I stay alone. So like most of the time, my family is based in Kerala, and it's really tough. Just you're sitting here, your friends cannot visit. So that's what I'm saying. In 6 months, I've gone out of my sector once. Otherwise, just stayed home. Otherwise, it was so fun. And I remember, I'm pretty sure that Sanchit and Radovan, who's also joined the call, would agree. We had so much fun in February. We had Agility Today Unconference, and we were singing and we danced. We went to Hard Rock Cafe together. All of us partied. And it was supposed to be such a great year, and here we are sitting in
True. Because I remember from Agility Today, I returned on 1st March, and right after 1 week, we figured out that there is a COVID patient in India, something like that. And on the next week, we were told just go home, work from home, don't come to office. And so that is the last trip I made in 2020, and after that I'm sitting here just we are just stuck.
And what's interesting is I can say, because as you know, I went through this 41-hour 5-flight trip, that I would say still, now don't think of traveling internationally. It's just absolutely nuts. And I would say, even what it took for me to get from Calcutta to Delhi was at times terrifying. I would say don't even fly domestically. This is just, the world isn't ready for that yet.
Yeah.
And so you were away from your family. Last week I got home. I had to go into quarantine until test results came back. I got tested right off the airplane, and but I had to go in quarantine for 9 days. So there was 9 days for 3 weeks. And then I went to see my mother, who's in a retirement home in Ohio. But I had to drive 5 hours. I stayed with my sister there, and I was allowed to see because I haven't seen my mother, because I could, she's in the retirement home. Those in the USA locked down very tightly, because people die in scores if the virus gets in there. And so they're locked down very tightly. And I could only talk to her for a half an hour a day while we both sat in a plexiglass case with a window between us, and we got a half an hour. But that's the world. That's the world we live in right now. Yeah. That we're all talking.
I really like the background Radovan has put in. At least it gives us a feeling that you're out.
Isn't it nice to dream about those times? Except it needs to be full of people.
You're a new Radovan. How have you been, man?
Actually, in some regards, not so bad. Like the Agility Today was super nice. Then I went to Germany, and then the whole country got crazy and locked down. Prague, Czech Republic. So after the initial shock, I discovered so many new meetups and conferences like never before. So I'm kind of thriving on new information. So basically, I was up like many days, up all night for the California late night. So meetups, which would be starting like 2 o'clock of my time, Central European time. So somewhat crazy. but still so many new insights, inputs like never before. So that's the positive side, I would say. And also, I was teaching a course on design thinking, Agile, in a university in Prague. And we basically started in April, like fully remote. And I thought this will be totally crazy. Like, what kind of even like, mood should I start with the students? Like, yeah, don't worry, all will be fine, or you are all going to die, and so it's as usual or not. But actually, this turned out to be the best semester I ever had. Before we were discussing these Scrum values and all those things about transparency, honesty, and so on. This was some basically like a vague bullshit which nobody really believes in. At least my student did not. But now, actually, we got fairly close, both as me and instructor with the students and students among themselves. So the amount of honesty and transparency and openness, that was unheard of before. So in this regard, I'm kind of wondering what I will keep for the next semester. Will be most likely starting face-to-face, but I'm kind of assuming that maybe we'll switch back online. And in any case, even if we don't, I will keep quite a bit of that. So there were some pretty good things I've discovered, to my surprise, after the initial shock.
Yeah, here in the USA, you know, it's like I went from being locked in a hotel room in Calcutta to locked in an apartment, you know, and I still don't expect in the USA for much to emerge until next year. You know, now people are living up to the fact that American football, which is the obsession in the United States in the fall, is gone. But
yeah,
right
the
from
college football season is not happening as well, no?
There's the South, they're going to try to do it. I don't think it's going to work, right? But the Big Ten football, which is the Big Ten is the universities in the Midwest, is canceled for the fall, and that's just like those are experiences, just going to those games that people remember their whole lives. Now they're not going to have them, and now the high schools have canceled their football seasons in the USA. So this is a, you know, and it's those are events where the whole country comes together and watches that, and now we're not going to have it, so we have to come together in different ways. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be many, you know, all the schools are mainly starting to move online, and you know, the high schools and stuff like that. So yeah, we're coming together in this way, but then we're still locked in our spaces, and it's hopefully we'll never have to do this again. At least hopefully in my lifetime. Yeah. Cool. So we've talked about taking together physically, we talked about intellectually. Anything else people are doing interesting to kind of take care of their worlds?
Yeah, I have one point which just came in my mind, that this lockdown period or this particular tiny virus also made us mature mentally, because we speak a lot about maturity mentally. You have to mature to be agile. So this situation actually made everyone agile, because earlier, some people, they were pushed, pushed to, you have to go to office, you have to work in secure environment because financial transactions going on, blah 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 blah, all those things are going on. Now the same people, they are working for same organization, same client, working from home. So now we have a system that our system is secure. The same transaction is going on, the banking, financial, everything is going on, we are doing now from home. So what was that before then, that if we work from home, it is not secure? So that means we have changed our mentality. Now we think that these things are secure. So that is one thing I really feel that this situation, this particular situation really changed the mindset. We speak a lot about mindset when we talk about Agile. So this situation really taught us a lot. And when we go back next to our work environment, I think we will get to see, especially in the manager level or so, that, they are speaking a different tone. That is my take. So maybe you all can say something more.
You're right. And it was interesting to see in this place in Calcutta, I was, and it was a park in the Newtown area. It was an office park and a lot of the big IT services firms. And you could tell which ones had prepared and which ones had not, right? The one I was working with was completely unprepared. They had gone cheap on everything, and so people just had big old tower desktops on their things, and nobody could work from home. And then they had to start picking and choosing who could work from home and who couldn't. Where the firm down the street had really prepared for this, and everybody had laptops and they were secure and all this stuff. And so now we're having to prepare in different ways for things that we never came up with. And I was thinking while you were talking, even Zoom has had to evolve. They've had to, their platform was completely insecure, and so all kinds of, there would be in the USA public meetings like city councils and stuff like that would get interrupted by somebody signing on and broadcasting horrible stuff and stuff like that. Yes, really nasty, dirty stuff that would all of a sudden appear in an official public meeting. And Zoom has really adapted, I think, pretty well to that and evolved themselves, like we all have to evolve in that way. Yeah. So we got about 5 minutes left, it looks like.
Yes, we have not 5, we have 4 minutes, 21 seconds. So be very specific. So if anything else you guys want to share with this group, you're welcome.
One of the things I'm kind of curious, it just came to mind, like Sajid, you're up in Gurgaon, but your family's in Kerala, right? And then one of the things that caused me to decide to come back to the USA was that intrastate travel inside India is almost nixed, right? Way stricter than the United States, where people can still freely move you around by car and things. But even, that's what really made it really infeasible for me to stay in India, is that I'm used to moving around. I have to be able to move around to be valuable to people. And it didn't make sense to keep doing that, to stay there in that hotel room. So I'm kind of curious how people are surviving, because in India, that's quite common to live in a different city, but your family is long. How are people living with that?
To be honest, I think that's the biggest issue that folks had, like when it came to traveling. Like I have neighbors upstairs in my building who had not gone home for 5 months, but now they can go now. So, but sadly for me, so like twice I had like confirmed tickets that got cancelled by the airline that I could do nothing about. Then I just decided, okay, when everything gets all right, I'll move. But I've been speaking to a lot of friends, who stay alone just like this. So what we do is, like for me personally, a lot of it depends. Has helped me is the online apps, the companies which are able to deliver the groceries, the people who are, supporting the medical field. Without their support, the system would have surely collapsed. And I think that's the key, because these startups stepped up big time. And when they did that, it allowed us to, I would even go ahead and say that it allowed us privileged, the privilege to stay home, because not everybody could stay home. Because if everybody stayed home, then
Sajid,
the world.
Sajid, 1 second. It will cut you in 1 minute. So just let.
Oh yeah. So yeah, no, I was just. my last thought would be that I'm very grateful that, you know, we could do what we could by sitting at home, and just glad that folks I know are, you know, safe. I know a couple of folks who got COVID but recovered from it as well. I know a friend who lost their family member because of COVID, but it's tough time. I think everybody's just trying to hold on, just end this year. I don't think we want 2020 anymore.
Yeah, let 2020 be end, and we also have to end this session. So thank you,
All right.
Jeff, and thank you
Thank
everyone
you so
for
much.
attending this one. Bye-bye.
Sanchita, we will have to
Okay.
move to the main room, or how it
No,
is?
no,
Go
we
back to
don't
the
have to go to the main room. Again, we
Okay.
will log in
You can
tomorrow.
just jump into any
Tomorrow,
session,
right?
right?
Yeah.
I think we're done
No,
for the day.
sessions are done. Tomorrow again.
Oh, sessions
Oh,
are done. This was the
Yeah.
last session. Oh, it's 10:30
oh
already.
yeah.
Wow,
It's
time
late
flies.
there. You
A
guys
good
should all go to
night.
sleep.
Yeah.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right.
See you tomorrow.
You have a
Thanks.
good
Bye.
night.